Okay, it's July the 26th, 2016, and this is Super Mesh Mouse, and that's the moon hologram, and it's very low and it's very large. I'll show you just how large. It's right over Toronto. Looks like it's right over downtown. Not quiet, but it's getting there. Okay, and there it is. Right now it's between the East End and the Toronto downtown center. So it's between Scarborough and Toronto, Canada. So let's see what's happening tonight. I didn't check my settings, but there's that X that says that thing is a star. Okay, the moon is not as bright as usual. It'll be probably brighter later as it climbs up. Right now it's kind of low. It's at about a 30-degree angle from where I sit, and I'm up pretty high. So this is not the same location. I'm filming from a different location tonight. And I can see the big orb right there sticking out, big as day. And lots of them. Okay, they're all on that side, on the right. It knows I'm filming it right away. It starts up. I'm telling you, these things are really smart. No matter how many times I say that, nobody believes me, but you know, one day they're gonna come down here. I mean, they're down here already, but they're really gonna come down here and show themselves, and then you're gonna have no choice but to believe me. But these things are really smart, and they don't look like us. Okay. I don't know if they made us or not, but they look nothing like us. I don't think you ought to be, seeing anytime soon. Okay, tall standing structure there. Probably one of those living structures made out of orbs as usual. I'll go and see. Okay, that looks just like the CN Tower here in Toronto, which is a mile high, except this is about 100 miles high, and it is all orbs. You can see them. Look how nice and neat they're lined up. Okay, isn't that nice? Okay, they're not on the surface at all. They're off the surface. That first part that goes up straight, that's about maybe 200 miles out, and the other part just curves slightly, but it still goes up straight, just in a different angle. Okay, that's another 75 miles, I guess. I'd say that's my guess. So let's see that. Boy, this is a good night to bring my other camera. can take some still shots. Look at the size of these things, and I'm not even close. Wow. That's an active spot right there. Okay. That's right near the top. And that's a big ring of orbs right there. I'm going to back up just a little bit. I'm going to adjust this camera so you can see it. Okay. That is one huge structure. Okay, it's a multidimensional structure, and tonight it's right around that hexahedron, which is buried in the moon hologram or cluster nucleus, the multidimensional space that it is. And it's an energy multidimensional space, not material, not physical. It's an energy multidimensional space. You can see over here that the thing is buried inside and that the thing has depth. Okay, that moon hologram is layered and it knows I'm talking about it. Wow, look at the orbs, they're not even on the surface. Let's see them. That's a lot of big orbs. Okay, I'm not even close. I hardly have any zoom on for this camera, this little pocket camera that I use. This is like no zoom at all in comparison to the capacity it has. But I took all the numbers off, so I don't know how much zoom I'm using, but I know I'm not using very much, hardly any. I just started. Okay. But it seems like it's close enough for the moon hologram. It's not very happy right now, because now it's definitely positive that I'm videotaping. Okay, all that movement is counterclockwise. I'll go through the whole thing. Okay, outside the moon hologram and inside the moon hologram and above it and all around it, it's all counterclockwise orb movement. And I know you don't believe me, but you should. The movement is on a grid, and it's squares and circles. Circles within the squares and moving through the grids. The grids are infinite. The square grids are infinite, and so are the circle rings. And all the circle rings are composed of, spherical entities, which are orbs, and they're clusters in themselves. Each orb is a cluster of smaller orbs, and there is no orb small enough that it can't be a cluster. I've never seen anything like a single orb. Okay, every orb I've ever seen or had a chance to, film or anything, take a picture of, or even seen live, because I had some in the house a few times. They were all cluster organisms or entities. They could break down into smaller units, and all those smaller units were orbs, just like the big one was. They all look the same to me, but I'm sure they can tell differences amongst themselves, because they're intelligent, very intelligent, even the smallest ones. Okay, so they're nothing to be ignored or anything like that. They're very smart. Even the very, very tiny ones are very smart, because most of their bodies are brain. So for the size that an orb is, it's brilliant in terms of intelligence. And the intelligence increases according to the size of the orb, because when the orb is larger, it just means that there are more organisms or entities within that orb, and all together they cooperate to make like a really smart orb, because there's more of them. Okay, the more of them that there are, the more intelligent the orb is. It just works by numbers. And the more capable the larger orbs are, they can do more. And if they want to do damage, they can do much more damage because they're bigger. But every orb works on the same principles and, pretty much does the same things except on different levels. Since orbs are entities that can exist on every level, they're very successful because, they can exist in microscopic forms or, huge forms like stars, or larger, like black holes or galaxies or, the universe. So everything that I've seen so far tells me that orbs are everywhere and everything seems to be made out of them. Everything else and us I'm not sure about. But it seems like everything else in the universe seems to be made out of these organisms. Sorry, that was me. I kicked this down by accident. Okay, so here's the hologram from far away. You can see how high up that structure goes. Okay, it goes up hundreds of miles. Okay, but that's just part of it. You see how transparent that hexahedron is? Okay, it's buried inside that other transparent form, which is the moon hologram. And these are all appear like images and are transparent, but that's only because they are energy. They are not physical matter. And so the appearance is very transparent or even translucent because the energy creates light, and the orbs that are inside these images and outside of them are energy organisms, entities, and they create the energy to create that light. So everything works around energy and light. So the only way you can see that image is if these orbs produce the light so that it's visible. Okay. I made this camera so that it can see them in the darkness of space, even when there is no light. And I did that on purpose because I wanted to see what was there. But, otherwise, if I, without that camera, I can see them anyway, but only as far as I can see with my eyes. I wouldn't be able to see them out in space. I can see them only around me, as far as I can see with my eyes, but not outside of that zone. There's a limit to how far my eyes can see, and that's as far as I can see an orb, even in the dark, like when it's pitch black. I know there's an orb there. If I can't see it, I can feel it, or, sense it somehow. And I don't know how that works, but I know it's there. And I don't really care how that works. The point is it works, and it doesn't matter really how. I think I was just born like that, and that's it. So I don't want to get into explaining how I can do it. It doesn't really matter, because it makes no difference how I can do it. It matters that I can do it. So here they are. Okay, this moon is not an object. It's not a physical object. Nobody ever landed on this because it doesn't really exist. It is an energy form, and there is no physical object called the moon. So no one was ever able to land on it because it's not there. Okay, the only thing that's there is light and energy, and you can't land on that. You can't walk on it. You can't do anything. You can't even get close to it because it's highly radioactive and very hot. So forget the moonwalks, forget the space race, forget all that lying. the fact of the matter is that this is not there in terms of how we perceive our moon. It does not exist. Okay. What is there, however, are these organisms or entities which are energy, and they are a different kind of energy than we're used to. They're electromagnetic energy, but not the kind we make, here on Earth with the electromagnets and all that. This is a little different because this is living entities, intelligent entities creating energy, just, using themselves. They don't use any machines or anything like that. So they have the capacity and the intelligence to control the energy that they have and that they create by just interacting with one another, and they can control this energy to the point where they can turn this energy into physical or matter, into physical forms or matter. And it can be living matter or non-living matter. That really doesn't matter, because to them matter is matter, and although they're aware of like living matter and non-living matter, the way they, can turn into a physical form is irrelevant to them, whether it's a living form or a non-living form of matter. They don't care if they turn into any kind of form they want to, in terms of what physical state they want to be in. Okay, so that's the point. So they can transform themselves from pure energy into any sort of matter, and that's the key. So they use no spaceships when they travel through space, and they do travel through space. They occupy most of space. Most of that mass in space is them. Most of the gravitational and electromagnetic attraction in space is them, because they create stars and moon like ours, and who knows how many of those there are, and they create all other energy, I can't say bodies, but structures in space, and they can turn any of those structures into physical mass at any point that they choose to. Okay, if they want to, create something, they just come together into a cluster, form that shape, and change the whole molecular structure from energy into a material state. And then it becomes a physical thing. So they can be you or me or anybody, or an animal or an insect or any sort of thing, a fish, or they can be a tree or a rock, or a piece of steel, or any kind of thing that we know of. They can turn into. Okay, they can transform from one state of being to another, from energy to matter. Okay, so they can be either energy beings or physical beings, or physical objects. Okay, so having said that, that hexahedron is the same kind of a thing that's on Saturn, except this one is on top of the moon hologram. See that big orb shoot out? And the other is on the bottom of Saturn. But it's the same thing. Okay, this one is just smaller than the one on Saturn, but it's the same kind of a thing. Okay, they're both hexahedrons, and not hexagons. They're hexahedrons, and they're buried in the structure. The other thing is a planet, but it's a gas planet, so you can bury things in the gas, This is energy, and you can bury a thing into the energy, because the energy comes in layers. Okay, it's a multi-layered, multi-dimensional space, and that thing is very unhappy with me right now because it's trying so hard to move the whole thing away, and I just moved this a centimeter or two, and I'm right on it. Okay, so it's not a happy camper right now, but that's okay, because, you know, that thing has done a lot to me that I wasn't happy about, and so has the sun and other stars, and I didn't complain, I took it. So they're gonna have to take me doing this to them, because they asked for it, and now they're gonna get it, and that's that. And you know, I don't care how much that thing moves, I'm still gonna get my video and talk about it, and talk facts, not make up stories. Okay, everything I'm telling you right now is a fact. Okay, these are energy structures, but they're living energy structures. Okay, and they're created by living entities which are highly intelligent. Okay, if they weren't intelligent, they wouldn't be able to make structures like that. So the proof is in the pudding, and the pudding is there every night. Okay, all you gotta do is take a look. Okay, so let's see up close. Okay, you see how nice and neat they stack up? Just like pearls. Okay? Just think of a pearl necklace. That's exactly how they stack up. Okay, you see them? Now, I've taken pictures of these with yet another camera, and got some very good close-ups, and you can actually see what they look like. And that's on my channel. That was about a year or two ago that I took that, and it has like at least 500 photos in that video of what they look like. Okay, so there's no question that these are, you know, living things, energy or not. Okay, as you can see, there are a lot of smaller orbs going counterclockwise around the larger orbs. And he doesn't like when I say that. I know, it's terrible, but I'm not going to be nice tonight. I'm going to just tell all the facts and that's it. Okay, so there are orbs everywhere. That whole thing is orbs, but there are orbs in layers, and the layers don't end with the moon hologram. The layers go right throughout our entire universe. Okay, not just in our galaxy, but everywhere. It's a definite fact. So, because they can make structures by connecting and using electromagnetism and gravity as their base, or connecting their connecting qualities. They use electromagnetism to bond, but not necessarily to touch, but just to bond within, like, you know, a framework. You see, they don't touch. Okay, if you look at them closely, they're close to one another, but they're not touching. Okay, so that's an electromagnetic field between each one of those orbs, holding them in place, but they're not like holding on to each other or anything like that. Okay, they can hold on to things. They have, you know, appendages and everything, lots of them, but it depends what shape they take, what kind of appendages they have. But they usually, most of the ones I know or seen, I've seen with a lot of appendages. because they always seem to have a lot of appendages. And I'm talking a lot of appendages, not just one or two. I'm talking like at least like the least I've seen was about 8. Okay, that's the least number of appendages that I've seen on an orb. Usually it's more than that, quite the number of appendages. Okay, they're not smooth, round little things or big things. They can walk, they can run, they can fly, they can do a whole lot of things. Okay, a lot of them have wings and all of that. So they're not helpless little round circles or spheres. Okay, I used to think they were, but they're not. They have lots of appendages that they use. Okay, and they really do use them. They're like a can opener or a Swiss Army knife. They have a thing for everything. Okay, they're very capable and really well equipped. And here's what's the rest of them. That's the rest of them, in space, all around the moon hologram and everywhere else in the universe. See, on every side, there's a lot of them. Okay, so they're just all over. They're expanding the universe just by populating it to the point where they need more room, and they keep expanding the universe because they need more room for their population. Okay, that's the reason the universe is expanding. Okay, it's not any physical or chemical, scientific thing. This is a basic need for living energy organisms that have a high population ratio, and they need to expand in order to provide space, a living space for the living organisms that they are. Okay, and that's how they do it, by expanding the universe and pushing the galaxies further and further apart, and they're filling the spaces in between. There is no void in space, anywhere. Okay, no place in space is a void. It's full of these things, just like you see, like this. Okay, just like that. Okay, there is no void anywhere. That's a lie. Okay, so excuse me. You see how they cluster up? See these little ones on the side there? Not the real round ones, because you can't see how they cluster up, but look in the back, those black ones there. If it doesn't go away, I want to show it. Okay, you see how they keep clustering like close to one another? Okay. So the way they hold each other together, or keep each other close like in a cluster, is with electromagnetic fields. Okay, now here on Earth, orbs, like I've seen them hold each other together with a web, and some were spiders, some were not spiders, but they could all produce that web, to make a web and hold it like they're clustered together like that. And the spiders used to hang on to, like, or attached to a wall or the side of a building or something, so that they wouldn't fly away, because they're not subject to gravity. So the wind used to blow them around, and especially when they're not traveling fast, then they're like shaky, and the wind can blow them around, and they used to attach themselves with the very strong spider web to the walls of the building and everything, so that they would stay sort of like locked in place, almost like a ship with ropes, being tied up at the dock. And that's what they used to do. But in space there's no building to tie yourself to. So you have to use electromagnetic energy and electromagnetic fields to hold yourselves together. And that's why they do that. And that's why they produce the electromagnetic energy, just by spinning fast and spinning on their axis and spinning around each other in revolutions and spinning around even objects. And they're the reason why here on Earth we have all of these obelisk type structures, like tall structures, like here in Toronto we have the CN Tower. That's a mile high. Okay, that's an obelisk. Okay, people may tell you it's this and that, but it's an obelisk. The Washington Monument, that's an obelisk. Okay, in Egypt, near the pyramids, they have tons of them. In every country, every major city, there's an obelisk, structure. And that's because to provide these things with a takeoff ramp, because they go around and around an obelisk till they build up enough speed to shoot off into space. And that's the only reason why there are obelisks all over this planet. Okay, so these things can spin around them and take off. There's a secret sort of society, if you want to call it, on this planet that knows all about these things, and they build these things like obelisk type structures or structures very tall that act as an obelisk, and they do it for these things, okay, because they know that these are the things that run our planet, and they're aware of that, and they provide them with everything they need. And they need a takeoff ramp. They don't just run and take off. They need a structure that they can spin around and build up that momentum and speed, and then shoot off like into space. And that's the reason there are structures like we have here, a mile high. And that's probably the reason why this thing is up like that. On the moon hologram, it's a ramp. Okay? Now sometimes they catch incoming orbs, but sometimes they shoot them off like that, you see? Can you see the line of orbs that are being shot off right there? Now those are all charged and they're going off. Who knows where they're going, but they're going very far. You can see them being shot off, and it's right off the top of that thing. But look at them all. If you look at from the bottom up, you can see rings. Look for rings. Okay, you'll see like ring after ring. And these are all orbs in different velocity stages going around that structure. Okay, until they build up enough momentum to come here to the top, and then be one of these ones that take off. One of those. You see the ones that are taking off? Okay, that thing is like a super fast Gatling gun and just shoots them off. But nobody shoots them off. You see the ring there on top? That's the final ring. When you reach that ring, your speed is so high, you just take off on your own. It's the momentum. Okay, and that's how they do it. So this whole structure here is like a takeoff ramp, but it also acts as a catching mitt, or whatever you want to call it. There, now you can really see the rings around the thing. You see all those black rings? They go all the way down, you see? All the way down, all the way down. So obviously it's going to try and block that out, but you see how the rings are? It's like a snake all the way up that thing, all the way to the top, and then they take off. And here's the takeoff. Okay, they take off from different points. Where they take off from depends how far they gotta go. If they gotta go very far, they take off right off the top. But if they only have a short ways to go, they can take off from down here, near the base. Okay, you see there are all orbs shooting out from everywhere. They're all going to different destination. Okay, they all have a different destination, and they don't all need to build up, that much momentum to shoot off if they don't have to travel far. Only the orbs that have to travel the farthest, you see the ring now? It's darker, you can really see it. Okay, you see how all that spin and revolution around that thing is counterclockwise, and orbs that are in that formation there, that are going straight up, they're spinning on their axes counterclockwise. So, man, that thing is moving all over. I gotta back up because it's moving so much. He just doesn't want me to even talk about that. Okay, you can still see it from here if it stands still. You see how secretive they are about how they do it? Okay, if there was nothing to hide, they wouldn't worry about it. But there's a lot to hide. Okay, you can really see the rings right there. Okay, you can see the rings going right around that whole structure. I have to keep moving the camera because the thing just keeps going crazy. Okay, you can see the rings winding right around the orb structure. Okay, and these are all living entities. The structure is made out of them, and those rings are orbs. They're living entities that are winding around like a snake in a continuous line, and the line is starting up on the base, and the base is right at the top dimensional layer of the moon hologram. So, first they have to come through all the layers to get to the top layer, and then go into that spiral up the structure there, and then take off either the top or any point up to the top, depending on their destination, how far they're going. Okay, so it's all about distance, and they know their distances very well. They calculate them probably in light years because they go traveling faster than light. So a light year would be like the smallest unit they would calculate in. They don't do miles and kilometers. Okay, that's only for us, not for them. They travel very fast. Okay, so their measurements are like light years or more. So it's all relative. Okay, and the first relative thing is that there's nothing relative. Okay, there is no relativity. Okay, because everything is constantly changing, and these things prove it every night. Okay, so forget relative. Okay, there is nothing that's relative, not even the speed of light, because these things can travel faster, and that there is no relative speed of light, because light can travel faster than itself, and these things are organisms or beings of light, and they can travel faster than the speed of light. So relativity, is a matter of, is a concept that some places it means something, and some places it means nothing. Okay, and for orbs it means nothing. Okay, to us it may mean something because they'll never achieve the speed of light, but to orbs, it's meaningless. Okay, the only thing that matters to them is energy, and they care about electromagnetic energy because that's the way they live. Without it, they wouldn't be able to live, because that's what they are. They're a product of it, they create it and keep themselves going with it, and they drive the universe by using it and expanding it throughout the universe. And their gas stations are stars. Okay, like we have gas stations, they have stars, and they have moons like this, and that's their battery power. Okay, that's their battery charger and a recharger and a storage unit and everything else. Okay, so think of the moon as a, you know, as a battery pack or a battery charger, because it's a place where energy is stored in layers, multidimensional layers. Okay, many dimensions, infinite dimensions. You see how they don't touch? Okay, none of them. Okay, if you got close enough, none of them touch. Okay, it's hard to see with the glare, but that glare, okay, are all orbs. Those are all orbs that are being charged up from all that activity. And they look like a cloud, like a light cloud, but it's just orbs. And because they are beings of light, that's what they're creating, light. So now they're going to add to the size of the moon hologram, and it's going to reach the top orb there in that structure, and then they'll put a dark cluster in the middle, and that'll look like it's a crater. And that's the way they make a crater, okay? And I'm not kidding, okay? See what they're doing? They're making the moon hologram reach up to that last orb, and then they're gonna fill it in with dark orbs, and it'll look like a crater in about an hour, maybe not even. Okay, so you see how they're connecting it together? And it's just piles and piles and layers of orbs. Okay, and what they're doing is playing around with light, with color, and with energy. I was going to say they're playing with themselves, but, you know, it doesn't sound right. They're not playing with themselves. Okay, what they're doing is playing a trick on us. But to them, this is not a trick, this is a daily routine or a nightly routine. But they do it 24/7 because there's always a, you know, the moon is always visible somewhere on the earth. It's just that, you know, we don't see it only at night. And sometimes during the day, but whatever time we see it for, it's not for the whole day. Because it doesn't stay in one place because the earth turns. See how charged up that orb is now, the top one? Look at the smaller orbs going around it. They're going faster than before. And it's going crazy because you didn't want me to show how they make craters and how they create the moon hologram. You're watching the moon hologram being created right now in front of your eyes. Okay? Now, you would have never had a chance to see this unless you came to my channel. Okay, this is the creation of the moon hologram on a nightly basis. They do this every night. Every night. Hold on. I lost it there for a second. That's because it keeps moving out of the way. Every time I put it on it, it moves out of the way. That's because they're smart and they know what they're doing. You see how it just lit up to the point where you can't see anything? Okay, what it's going to do now is, you see, it's going to connect that ring of orbs And you see how much the moon hologram expanded? It's reached the top orb. Now, there was nothing there before. There wasn't any matter or anything there before. And now that whole thing, you see how it looks like? It's going to look just like down here. But there's nothing there. It's energy and light. It's light. Light energy. Okay? And these organisms are living energy. Okay? And you just saw how they create the moon hologram. That was them in action. You see how far they got? Almost to the top orb. When it reaches that top orb, that's when it'll be complete for the night. So basically, you know, I think that's enough to digest for tonight. I showed you how the moon hologram is created, okay, and you saw it happening, okay, and whether you believe me or not, you have to believe something, and you saw what was happening, and the camera doesn't lie, it just takes video, you know, or it'll take photos too, but it takes video right now. And this is what's happening. Okay, look at it, how far it just jumped up. It's moving in every direction. It's moving left and right, forward and back, and up and down. And it can probably turn, which it does. Okay, from time to time you'll see it turn right in front of your eyes. And it is intelligently controlled because all the organisms or entities that make it up are intelligent. And when they work together, they can change the whole thing. The whole thing. They can even make it disappear altogether. You know, they just break up apart and then you get this. Okay? You get a thing like that. A lot of them, all over. And that's what's up there, a lot of them. And guess what? That's down here the same here on Earth. There's no difference whether you're on Earth or in space. You just don't see them, but they're here, all over the place. Okay? They're in a different dimension. They're in many different dimensions. But they're also in our dimension where you can't see them, but they use different methodology to hide themselves. Like they can deflect light, they can reflect light, they can change color, they can, you know, turn into different things on the spot, you know, very quickly, and they can move fast. They can do a whole lot of things that causes you not to see them. Okay, so because they're very intelligent, they know exactly what they need to do before you can even understand what's going on. And the confusion and the rate that they can do things, how fast they can do them, makes them invisible. Because your comprehension and your understanding and even your sensory input is not quick enough to grasp it all at once. And so they just remain invisible because you're not able to comprehend what's happening. Okay, because nobody spends enough time to think about what's happening. Okay, but if you pay close attention, you observe, and you think, but without any prejudice, you just think, you know, without any kind of a hang-up, then you can not only figure this out, but you'll be able to see it happen. You won't be blind to it anymore, like most people are today. And I don't know who else can see them like I see them without even a camera or anything. But if there is anybody else, then good for them. They've gone, pretty far in life as far as I'm concerned, because that's an achievement to be able to do that. Okay. Now some people may just be born able to do that. I don't know. But others have to learn how to do that, and it's possible to learn how to do it. Okay, but the first rule is no hang-ups, and no hardcore feelings about anything. You have to be flexible, and you have to be open to a lot of things that aren't, considered normal or considered, good science, because no scientist will ever, agree with me, because they're so hard up in their belief system that they can't even be open-minded enough to listen to anything like what I'm talking about, let alone go along with it. But, too bad for them. They're wrong, and they can stay wrong till they die. I don't care. These are facts that can't and won't change. They've been like this for billions of years, and they're never going to change because some scientists won't believe them. The orbs don't care about what scientists believe. They want them not to believe it. Okay? And they're dissuading people who do believe it from believing it. And there are people here on our planet that exert pressure on people and force them to abandon any kind of effort to find out what's really going on, because they're controlled by these things. Okay, so the elite has always been the elite, and these things have given them the power to be in power. And so they build obelisks and other structures for them, and they do what they say they want done on this planet. And for that reason, they suppress any kind of serious effort to find out what's really going on and why these things are on Earth and everything. And, I've had that happen to me, and I'm sure other people have too. It's a conscious effort of suppressing people from talking or, discovering what's going on and what's really going on and who's really in charge and who's calling the shots. Okay? And it's nobody on this planet, that's for sure. And these things here that make the moon hologram, they're not calling the shots either. Okay? The only things that can call the shots in our solar system are the things on the sun. The orbs on the sun, they call the shots in this solar system because it's theirs. And they have a say in what goes and what doesn't go and how things go. So that's who's in charge, not the moon. The moon is just a forward base, to control our planet, but it's the sun that calls the shots. The orbs on the sun, I mean. Or the sun as a whole, because it acts as one entity, the star that it is. See how far? Excuse me. Too much air conditioning and the heat. I think I caught a cold. Okay. So you see how far the moon hologram has expanded outward towards that top orb? Okay, pretty soon it'll be right up to that top orb will be right on the surface. It'll look like it's on the surface. And then it'll look like there's a crater right there. They're already putting in darker orbs near the edge there to make it look like a depression, and having those orbs on the side will look like sides of a crater. So everything is all planned out for tonight. It's been planned out who knows how long ago, probably 1,000,000 years ago. These things move and travel so fast, they've probably been in the future 1,000 times already, and they know how they planned this out already, and how it's going to turn out and everything like that. So this is no news to them, and they've made these plans a long time ago, and they just perfected them to the point where we can't tell what's going on. And they don't want us to know what's going on, because if we know what's going on, then it won't be a secret anymore. And now it's all like hush hush. Because nobody wants to admit that there was no moonwalks, and the space program was a sham, the whole thing. So these things would never let us go anywhere. They want us on this planet, and they're not going to let us go anyplace. We can send all the robots we want, but we're not going anywhere. Okay, that's the only place you're going to go in space is in the movies. Okay, we'll never get out of that Van Allen belt, because everything out there is so radioactive it'll kill us. We're stuck on this planet, and we better take care of it. Otherwise, we're creating our own doom if we don't. See that big round orb right there in the foreground? That thing is huge. It's inside the moon hologram. Okay, it's covered by light. So all those structures are covered by layers and layers of organisms, which are beings of light. I have to call them beings because they're so intelligent. I can't call them anything else. I was right in 2010 when I put out that first video naming it the beings of light, because that's exactly what they are. See the pyramid structures there? Those clusters right there? Okay. Guess who gave the Egyptians the idea for pyramids, and many other places on Earth too? Okay, these things. You see the shape? They're all like pyramid structures. Okay, so from time to time they came down and helped, civilization develop, and taught people things, but they also taught them how to kill one another, and taught them how to make weapons and things like that. So they weren't always acting in a good way, and they won't always act in a good way, because many times they have destroyed civilizations, and they have destroyed other things like dinosaurs, and in prehistory, who knows what they destroyed before the dinosaurs. The planet has been close to, everything being killed off that was alive many, many times, because these things decided to just end it all and start over. We're like an experiment. That's what's going to happen to us too. It's just a matter of time. And I think, the time is coming close. That, that may happen very soon, because things don't look too good. All this extra orbitivity is creating an electromagnetic frequency fluctuation and changes that's affecting people's mental stability, because we only operate between 6 and 8 ohms. Anything lower or higher than that will affect how people act and behave and how people think. Okay, so people will become more irrational. The higher the frequency gets, they'll become more irrational. The lower the frequency goes, people will start getting sick and won't be able to do anything. And they'll just not care about anything and die of starvation and things like that. Or just from illness. They'll develop all kinds of symptoms. But these things don't really care about any of that, because they're not here for us. They're here for themselves. And that's a fact. They're here for themselves. And, they have us for a reason. We create a lot of energy just by being alive, and they feed off of it. Because the whole planet emits energy, and all the energy we produce, we create even more energy. So they feed off of all of that energy, because they can extract it and use it. See, that whole thing's not even on the surface. You see how it's beating in light? Okay, it comes from deep inside. Okay, it's a ring actually. That's just a huge ring, and it goes right around that hexahedron. Okay, so it's just a matter of how they conceal it, that you can't tell that it's a ring. But that's a huge ring. And as I've said before, they're good at making rings, because that's how they revolve. In rings, they spin, counterclockwise like that. But they need structures to spin around, because they can't really spin around nothing. And over here in space, they spin around each other, and they use each other. Each set of orbs is in a ring, so each ring uses another ring to spin around it, and they spin in all different directions. So what actually happens is then you have the grid. You have the lines going up and the lines going across. And I don't know if you can see the grid. It has to roll at a normal video speed. The video has to go at a normal speed in order for you to see it. And I have to set this just at the right distance. Okay, I hope you can see it there. But orbs aren't just going around in circles. They're going in all directions. But what happens with all that movement is you get them going in a line straight across and straight up and down. Okay, but whichever way they're going, it's always counterclockwise. They're always moving in a counterclockwise direction. So it doesn't matter that they're all spinning in different directions and at different rates. What matters is that the way they fall into a line, or if it's a ring, it's still a line. Okay, because it's just the line turned into a circle, okay? So the way all of that fits together is you get dimensional grids, and there's like infinite number of them. And then you have these lines going across and going up and down, but the orbs aren't doing it like that. It's the way they fall into place that creates those lines up and down. And that's what makes the multidimensional grid, because the orbs are moving to different dimensions as they spin or as they revolve. Okay, they're not in a single dimension. They're moving, long distances, and they're moving to different dimensional spaces on their revolution. Okay, it's like going around the solar system, but if the solar system was divided into, a whole bunch of dimensions, you'd be going to different dimensions as you go around the sun. Okay, something like that. Okay, you can see the energy there, the charge is not the same everywhere, but there's electromagnetic energy being produced everywhere, but not at the same rate. Okay, some places it's higher. Let's see, like here is higher than where I had before. So they produce just the right amount of energy to keep a balance in the universe. That's what it's all about, keeping a balance. They produce the energy that they need. They don't waste it, and they don't produce more than they need. Because too much energy can be a bad thing. So they just produce the energy that they need. Too much energy can destroy them. And nobody knows that better than they do. So they're very careful in their use and appropriation of energy and the creation of energy in the first place. Okay, here's an active spot right there, right in the center. You can see that they revolve in circles. But those circles are going in many different directions. But if you can see beyond that, as the orbs line up, they're making squares, and those squares extend into lines across and lines up and down, all moving counterclockwise. So if you like just, clean the slate, make a tabula rasa out of your head, out of your mind, and start with a clean slate, that you can see it. If you have preconceptions, you can't. If YouTube slows down this or interrupts it in any way, you can't see it. It has to roll at this speed, and for a while, so that you can, study it, but not think, just watch, and eventually you'll see it. Okay, it has to just sort of come to you, and it will if you concentrate without any preconceptions about it. Just look at it, and amuse yourself. Don't stress out. If you can't see it, don't stress out. It doesn't really matter. The point is, if you watch it long enough, you will see it. It's just a matter of time. Anyway, so much for that. Let's find the moon hologram. I went off so far from it. That's what I mean. I can see them in the dark. Okay, I wasn't kidding, because it's dark out there where I was just at. I don't know where the moon hologram is right now. It went up real high. Move the camera. Okay. Okay, now it's really high up. Okay. Okay, it's at 10 o'clock. The moon is at 10 o'clock high. What time is it now? It's a little late, but it's at 10 o'clock high. Okay, so you see the top orb right now is almost laying on the surface. Okay, when they fix that color up and everything and pile up the orbs there to make it look like a crater, it'll look like it's right at the edge of a crater, like a rim. Those couple of that are, bent over like that. Okay, but that's just an illusion. They're not bent over. The whole thing is a curve. Okay, but it's going straight up on a curve. Okay, there is no bend. It's a very low grade curve. Okay. So that's the key thing for tonight. Okay, you saw the creation of the moon hologram, and you saw how they have that tall structure made out of themselves to spin around on or around it in order to catapult themselves by creating momentum off the moon hologram and go off and travel in space. It's like a takeoff ramp for orbs, and that's why we have obelisks down here on Earth that are very tall, and the taller they are, the better, because it gives the orbs a chance to go farther. Okay, the taller the obelisk, the better for the orbs, and that's why people are building buildings taller and taller and taller, and I don't know where that's going to stop, but that's the reason we have all these tall buildings all over, okay, and all these obelisk type structures all over, okay, because they have to be narrow, they can't be too wide, so that the orbs can, go in rings around them, like a snake around them, and take off. But up there, they're only orbs, so they make the whole thing out of themselves, including the moon hologram. Okay, that's just for us. They make that whole thing. But also for themselves, because they live in clusters. And that's what that is. It's an orb cluster, and it's an orb cluster nucleus. It's more condensed with orbs than the space around it, because this is a nucleus that creates and holds energy. It acts as an energy machine and a battery at the same time, which stores it. So it's a perpetual machine, meaning it creates the energy all the time, and creates the energy from the energy that was created. So the organisms and everything there is energy, and they just keep perpetuating themselves over and over, non-stop, for as long as it's there. And that's why it can exist for a long, long time, billions and billions of years. And that is not a moon, it's a star, okay? Even though they give you different images of it, it's still a star. It's a form of a star. because it's an energy cluster. And that's what every star is. It's an energy cluster. And in this case, living energy cluster. Okay, that's what every galaxy is. That's what every black hole is. That's what every star is, and that's what our moon is. And any other moon that's like it. Okay then, one more look at the structure from far away. Okay, notice it's hundreds of miles high, hundreds of miles. Okay, maybe more than what I said before, maybe more than 200, could be 500, I don't know how high that may be. Okay, it looks very high off the surface, and it even goes below the surface layer. Okay, and all of that is just light, but it's light energy, and it's smart light energy. It's living energy. And that's what ours are. They are living energy beings. Highly intelligent. They get their orders from the sun. And that's that. It's just a forward base for the sun. Or the orbs that inhabit the sun. Okay. So all stars have bases like this, okay, and that's the reason for moons like ours. And stars are not gas and gas bubbles. They are made out of living energy organisms, highly intelligent energy organisms that create electromagnetic energy perpetually. And that's it for tonight. So, one more look at this, and it's over. Thank you for viewing. This is Super Mush Mouse. Everything I said tonight is true. Thank you.